My parents said, "You're the most trashy daughter we have." The words dropped like silverware in a quiet room. A few relatives tried to smile for the sake of the birthday candles, the string lights, the polite music. No one moved. Even the air seemed to pause like it didn't want to be caught taking sides. I stood up. My chair scraped the floor. One clean note, a blade across tile. "Then stop calling me when you need money." Faces fell. Breath stalled mid-chest. The music kept playing something cheerful and wrong. "Hi everyone. My name is Zara and I've learned that the people who taught me not to beg are the same people who beg in private. I'm 26, the daughter who stayed late to wash dishes, the one who sent rent when the business had a slow month, the one who got told to stand straighter, talk softer and never ever remind anyone what I paid for." Mom blinked, lips rounding into a perfect O that could pass for surprise or offense depending on who was watching. Dad's jaw worked like he was chewing a word he didn't want to swallow in public. My sister toyed with a ribbon on the gift table as if this were just decor, like my life had been sprinkled on for color. I stayed very still. It's funny what a still body hears. The clink of a cousin's bracelet. The hum of the refrigerator. The tiny tremor in my sister's voice when she said, "You didn't have to say it like that." Like that. As if tone were the crime, not the history. The table smelled of citrus cleaner and resentment. A half-eaten slice of cake sat near my plate. The fork stabbed upright like a flag. I watched Mom's eyes flick to my phone. She knew exactly what was in there. Transfer receipts with midnight timestamps, the quiet lifelines I'd sent, the emergencies I'd resolved because family doesn't need to ask twice. "Zara," Dad said, smoothing his napkin with slow, practiced calm, "there's no reason to embarrass us." The word he uses when he means me. I kept my voice low, the way you speak to a skittish animal. "I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I'm trying to retire from being useful only when it hurts." Silence moved through the room like a weather front. Aunties studied their tea. Uncles adjusted watches that weren't late. My sister finally met my eyes, and for a second I saw the girl who used to hold my hand crossing the street. Then she blinked it away. So I let the moment breathe. I let the music play something bright over something broken. I let them all decide whether I was bluffing. And then, without sitting down, I placed my palm over my phone, opened the banking app and hovered my thumb above pause transfers. No one spoke. No one stopped me. The screen glowed on my face like a small, rising moon. My thumb lingered over the glowing button. Pause transfers. It was such a small phrase for what it meant. Years of late-night calls whispered, "Help us just this once." And my silence that always turned into sending. I clicked it. The air shifted. Mom gasped, not loudly but sharp enough that a few cousins lifted their heads. Dad's hand froze on his glass, the condensation dripping down onto his cuff. My sister's smile twitched like she couldn't decide whether to laugh or panic. Inside I wasn't trembling. I expected to. But there was a calm, like watching waves that once dragged you under finally pull back to sea. "Zara," Dad said, slow, cautious. "You're overreacting." "No," I replied, my voice even. "I'm just done reacting." The room seemed to tilt. I noticed how the light from the chandelier bounced off the silverware, how the half-wilted roses in the centerpiece smelled faintly sour, how nobody, absolutely nobody, defended me. That was the lesson, wasn't it? They wanted my silence when they insulted me. My money when they struggled. My absence when they celebrated. Mom finally spoke, her words clipped. "You wouldn't let your own family suffer." I tilted my head, let her words hang and answered softly, "You already decided I wasn't family." A cousin coughed into his napkin. Someone's phone buzzed and went unanswered. It felt like the entire table was sinking inch by inch under the weight of words they couldn't rewind. I pushed my chair back further, stood taller. The room blurred at the edges, but my voice cut clear. "You called me trash. Trash doesn't fund you. Trash doesn't save you. Trash walks out." And with that I turned toward the door, each step echoing like a verdict. The hallway outside the dining room felt colder, like the air itself had been waiting for me. My heels clicked against the marble, a rhythm steadier than my heartbeat. Behind me I heard the shuffle of chairs, low murmurs. No apologies, just fear of what my silence would cost them. I paused at the door, fingers brushing the polished wood. Childhood memories flashed. Me running through this house with scraped knees, Mom's bracelets clinking as she clapped me closer, Dad's laugh booming at the dinner table. How quickly those echoes turned into debts, into guilt dressed up as love. My sister's voice called softly, "Zara, wait." I turned. Her eyes darted between me and our parents, who stayed seated, stiff as carved stone. She wanted me to be the bridge again, the patch that made everything look whole. "I can't," I whispered. "Not this time." Her lips parted, but no words came. For once, even she had nothing to defend them with. I opened the front door. The night air rushed in, cool and liberating. Outside, the streetlights painted long shadows across the driveway. My car waited like an ally, quiet and ready. As I stepped into the dark, my phone buzzed. A new message from Dad. "We'll talk when you calm down. Don't make this harder." I almost laughed. Calm down? I had never been clearer. I slid into the driver's seat, rested my hands on the wheel, and let myself breathe for the first time all evening. The house behind me glowed with warm light, but it felt like a stage set, hollow, fragile, one storm away from collapsing. I put the car in drive, whispering to no one but myself. They'll miss me more in silence than they ever valued me in noise. The tires rolled forward, and for the first time I didn't look back. The road stretched out, empty and wet from an earlier rain. Streetlights flickered like nervous witnesses. Each mile I drove felt like peeling away another layer of weight that had lived on my shoulders for years. My phone buzzed again. This time, Mom. "Zara, don't be dramatic. Families fight. You'll regret this." I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Regret? I thought of all the nights I skipped dinner just to cover their bills. The jobs I turned down because they needed me close. The endless silence I swallowed whenever they cut me down in front of others. If regret had a face, it wasn't mine, it was theirs. I pulled into a gas station, the neon humming in the night. Sitting there, I watched other families pass, laughter spilling from cars, tired parents holding kids half asleep. None of them looked perfect, but none of them looked like mine. I opened my banking app again, scrolling through years of transfers. Rent. Hospital fees. Random emergencies that always ended in excuses. My throat tightened, but not with sadness, with clarity. Every receipt was proof. I had been their safety net, and they had turned me into their scapegoat. Another message came, this time from my sister. "Just come back. We'll smooth it over." Smooth it over. Like pressing a napkin over a spill and pretending the stain wasn't already there. I typed back slowly. "I'm not smoothing anything. I'm done being your cover story." I hit send. The word delivered glowed, final and undeniable. In the silence that followed, I noticed my own reflection in the windshield. Tired, yes. Hurt, yes. But also, unchained. I whispered into the stillness. They wanted trash. I'll show them treasure they'll never hold again. And with that, I turned the key, pulled back onto the road, and drove into the unknown, finally choosing myself over their approval. The highway opened wide, empty except for the hum of my engine. Each passing sign felt like a marker between the life I'd endured and the one I was finally claiming. My chest hurt, but not from breaking. This was the ache of release. The phone lit up again. This time it wasn't text. It was a call from Dad. The screen flashed his name like a warning. I let it ring. Then another call. Then another. Desperation dressed up as control. Finally, a voicemail arrived. His voice cracked with anger disguised as calm. "Zara, don't do this. You know they depend on you. You know we depend on you. If you walk away, what happens to us?" I closed my eyes, listening to the hypocrisy drip from every word. What happens to us? He never once asked what happened to me. I pulled over again, parking under the glow of a broken streetlight. The night smelled of wet asphalt and gasoline, sharp and grounding. I opened my notes app, and for the first time I began writing, not to them but to myself. A ledger not of debts but of truths. They called me trash. They called me selfish. They called me unworthy. But when bills stacked high, when lights threatened to go out, when cupboards turned empty, it was my so-called trash hands that kept them alive. My fingers trembled as I typed the final line. I am not trash. I am the reason they've survived this long. And they will feel my absence like hunger. The words didn't heal the wound, but they stitched it enough to keep me upright. I started the car again. The road stretched ahead, unfamiliar but mine. For the first time in years, the silence felt like a friend. And behind me, in that house of warm lights and cold hearts, I knew my absence had already started burning. By morning, the storm broke. My phone lit up with messages, one after another, like frantic knocks on a locked door. Mom, we need you back. Bills are due. Dad, don't make a scene. Just fix this. My sister, they're panicking. Please, just send something. I read each one in silence. Not one of them said sorry. Not one of them admitted the cruelty of last night. They didn't want me, they wanted my wallet. I sat in a small cafe, steam rising from a chipped mug of coffee. Around me strangers laughed, read newspapers, tapped on laptops. None of them knew me, and yet I felt freer among them than I ever had at my family's table. I scrolled back to the receipts again. Months, years, lifetimes of giving. And then I looked at my own bank balance, thinner than it should be. All those sacrifices, and for what? To be called trash. The cafe door chimed as a couple walked in holding hands. The woman brushed snow from the man's coat, and he smiled like she was the only thing in the world. I swallowed hard. That's what it should feel like to belong. Not like an obligation but like a choice. My phone buzzed once more. This time from an unknown number. The message read, "If you don't send it, Dad says we'll tell everyone how ungrateful you are." A laugh slipped from my lips. Low, bitter, unstoppable. Ungrateful. The word echoed, twisting into something absurd. They wanted to paint me as the villain, but I was done holding their picture frame. I set my phone face down on the table. The screen went black, and in that blackness I saw only one truth. They had already lost the best part of me. And I wasn't going back. I didn't answer their threats. I didn't need to. By the end of that week the cracks began to show. A cousin posted online about the electricity being cut at my parents' house. Another mentioned how Dad had borrowed money from him. Money he never would have asked for if my transfers were still flowing. The whispers spread faster than wildfire, and for once I wasn't the one fanning the flames. I watched it all quietly from my small apartment, the walls bare but honest. My fridge wasn't full, but everything inside it belonged to me. No guilt. No strings. That night another voicemail arrived. Mom's voice was sharp, brittle. "Zara, everyone's asking questions. Your aunt said she saw the receipts. Do you want people to know you've been paying for us all this time? Do you want the shame on us or on you?" Her words cracked in the middle, and for the first time, I realized it wasn't control she feared losing. It was reputation. Without me the illusion shattered. The respectable family everyone admired was nothing but a house built on my silence. I sat by the window watching the city lights scatter across the dark. My phone buzzed again, my sister this time. "They're scared, Zara. You've got all the proof. Don't ruin us." I typed back one sentence. "I'm not ruining you. I'm just done saving you." The message sent. Delivered. And in that moment I felt the balance tip. For once I wasn't the desperate one. They were. And I knew, part of me had already won. But the real justice was still waiting, just one step away. The final crack came on a Sunday morning. I was sipping tea by the window when my phone lit up. Not with another plea but with a group chat notification. My entire extended family had been added. Dad's message glared on the screen. "Zara has abandoned us. She refuses to help her own parents. We raised her and this is how she repays us." For a moment I just stared. Then slowly I opened my files. Screenshots of transfers. Late-night messages begging for money. Receipts with my name on them month after month, year after year. Proof that the daughter they called trashy had been their lifeline. With one steady breath I dropped every single file into the chat. Dozens of images appeared in sequence. Irrefutable, undeniable. Silence followed. Not a single defense. Not a single insult. Just the weight of truth pressing down on them all. Finally my cousin, one of Dad's favorites, replied, "Zara, you've been carrying them? All this time?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. Minutes later my sister called. Her voice trembled. "They're humiliated. Everyone knows now." "What did you do?" I spoke softly, almost kindly. "I just stopped hiding their trash. I let it sit in the light." She cried quietly on the other end. But I felt nothing, not guilt, not triumph. Just peace. That evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, I finally turned my phone off. No buzzing. No begging. No weight on my shoulders. Just silence. For the first time in my life I wasn't their daughter, their scapegoat, their safety net. I was simply me. And that was enough.